So you mentioned global competition. What is this global competition?
Well, global competition is human resources all around the world, in India and in China, in South Korea. So, for example, after World War II, I believe, if you were to look at South Korea's education performance and the number of graduates who are coming out with degrees, they were well down the worldwide rankings. They were towards the bottom. And today, in fact, they're ahead of the US in terms of the per capita students who are going on to get college degrees in certain fields such as engineering. So our kids today are going to be competing with those students for jobs because, again, many of these jobs, you don't have to be located here in this country anymore to actually perform those tasks. You can be doing engineering from other countries in the world. You can certainly be doing software development from other countries in the world. So we really need to prepare our students to compete for those jobs with people from all around the world.
So with your experiences in the Kent School District, where do you think Kent fares in this area?
Well, I think you guys are very fortunate to be in this district because Kent is certainly leading the way and has had tremendous leadership with technology for many years now. I was fortunate to have come to a conference that was being run here last year, I believe it was, and see some of the work that students are producing. And what was evident in that work is it wasn't just the technology being tacked onto the side of an existing program. Students were truly being empowered. And ultimately, you could be impacting the thinking of other people. And if that's what education is about, that's what we're about. If we can't impact the thinking of other people, then we're really not participating as citizens. So this is a great example of the right philosophical approach, in my mind, to the way technology should be used.
So in your mind, what does the ideal school district look like?
In terms of infrastructure and environment, I really think we need to move away from this idea of one teacher and 30 students, and that kind of has to be broken down, as does the idea of you start learning when you come to school in the morning, you stop learning, and then you have your homework. I think we're really going to see that breakdown, and we're seeing that breakdown already. The technology means that students really ought to be able to learn anytime and anywhere. But what would I like to see? I would like to see more project design and problem-based learning. I'd like to see students involved in projects where they're trying to complete meaningful tasks, and in the process of doing that, they realize they need to know a lot more about this algebra concept, or they need to really understand a lot more about this history idea, and that they have that context which then drives them to go and learn deeply and with complexity and with rigor about those physics ideas or math ideas in order to bring those ideas back and make something work in the project they're building. So it probably sounds a little bit idealistic, but I think that real-world context would certainly be a larger part of education than it is today. The ideal district, I guess, is every teacher is the lead learner, and every teacher is the expert learner. Every teacher is about modelling for their students a willingness to be somewhat vulnerable as educators, demonstrating that they don't know everything, and that when they're not sure about how to answer a question or they're not sure how to do something, they get together with the kids and say, how can we figure this out? Because when they're modelling that for their students, they're modelling an approach and a mindset, an attitude towards learning that students have to have and going to need to have to survive in the world that they're going to enter.
Today I am joined by Howard Levin, Director of Technology at the Urban School of San Francisco since 1999. This school has been recognized nationally multiple times for being on the cutting edge of curriculum innovation, particularly in the area of technology. Mr. Levin is currently in San Francisco, California, and we are conducting this interview over Skype video conferencing software. Good afternoon, Mr. Levin. Thank you so much for taking some time to speak with me today.
It's my pleasure.
The Urban School of San Francisco was the first high school in the San Francisco Bay Area to distribute laptop computers to all students and teachers. This was obviously a huge undertaking for your school to accomplish. In what year did you implement your one-to-one program?
The planning process really took place over the course of about 3 years, starting with some small pilots, starting with putting laptop carts in the school instead of discrete physical labs. So we dismantled rooms that were labs and we replaced those with laptop carts. We had some students, some classes that were laptop specific as really a pilot. We distributed laptops to all of our teachers. Was it that year? I guess it was the following year in 2000.
There had to be something that made you and the administrators of the urban school positive that making the financial commitment to providing laptops for your students was a necessary commitment to the future of your students. What was this something?
So what we wanted was for the use of the computer to become seamless and normal and not something that you had to check out and go to. But primarily it was about providing additional tools to support teaching and learning in the classroom.
Beyond serving as the Director of Technology for the Urban School, you're also a former board member for the International Society for Technology and Education. Can you tell me a little bit more about ISTE?
ISTE is the international organization that promotes technology in schools. It's a very large organization that extends its fingers throughout the world. ISTE has really moved to embrace this idea of promoting improved learning via technology as opposed to promoting technology education. And those are two very different things.
Speaking in a global sense, what does ISTE see as necessary in our current educational system for our students to compete in a global economy in the coming years?
First and foremost, access to technology, actually having the machine and the technology available, teacher preparedness in using the technology effectively, and really rethinking traditional education, pushing new models of thinking about teaching and learning that are really 21st century models, not just about how we use technology, but thinking about how students learn, how we improve teaching in a 21st century model, which embraces the idea that students and teachers are a very diverse group. We learn very differently, we have different abilities, and technology and tech tools, and laptops in particular, have a great potential.
With the many experiences you have, including your work at the Urban School, through ISTE, and even when you lived and taught in the Pacific Northwest, what gaps do you see in education and students in terms of access to technology and achievement?
Interactive whiteboards are spreading everywhere throughout schools right now, and the diversity of how they're being used to me is a concern. So a lot of people are using them because they're fun and flashy, and they're being promoted as this is the technology we're supposed to be using now. The power of those boards is really one of the big powers of those boards is that students have access to the board work after class as their study aids. And so that's a missing ingredient for many teachers throughout this country who are using interactive whiteboards, but they have no means of delivering these files so that students can access these files and use them to study afterwards. That, to me, there's a gap there between an understanding of the power of the tool at the moment versus the power of the tool to really transform the nature of teaching and learning. The interactive whiteboard used in this manner is freeing students from taking notes. The students that can just watch and listen and absorb and not be distracted by their own writing.